Okay, welcome back. We are live at the Hill of Roses, where we come once again to celebrate our best contributors to our united progressive movement, where we come to celebrate bringing power to the people. Today, we have a very special episode with us. We have our three candidates here from Oregon's 1st District who had just completed their primary yesterday. We have Heidi Briones, we have Amanda Siebe, and we have Ricky Barajas, all familiar faces to the program. Welcome back to you all.
Hi, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be able to talk with you all today. I'm sure there are a multitude of emotions that have gone through now being, completed with your process. The first question I wanted to ask you all is, as you had completed this primary. Unfortunately, none of you had won. What is your first reaction when you were going through and you found the results last night? Heidi, how did you feel getting those results coming in?
I felt a lot of different emotions at the same time, but I would say that, I definitely, knew that her winning by a large margin was the most likely scenario, just based on data, facts, how often incumbents win, her fundraising, her stranglehold over the district for, better part of a decade. So obviously I knew that. I did think we would take a bigger chunk out from her. So I was kind of shocked that she was still at that very high rate, just based on actual data that we have internally from conversations, phone banking, text banking, people interacting with our ads. I did not feel that she should get that many votes. So there was that thought that went through my head, like that's pretty weird. But then I was also happy that we did take her down a notch as well. So it was probably all those feelings at once, probably like, yeah, that makes sense. And then like, but what the heck? And then, well, hey, we did the best we could. Like we did pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. And to just give the number, as of right now, not 100% has reported. It's like 73% currently. And Suzanne Bonamici got 84.7%. Amanda, how did you feel during that moment? Obviously the incumbency advantage is a really large thing in politics. What were your expectations coming in and how did you feel when you got the results?
Like Heidi said, it's a little bit to be expected. Bonamici is a powerhouse. She's connected to all the big businesses. She has that name recognition that Heidi, Ricky, and I just don't have without the $1 million in our campaign funds. But I was really, really pleasantly surprised. I really started this alone as a pipe dream. And we came so far and got so much accomplished that this is nothing but a win for me. So that's how I look at it. It was a learning experience. I'm definitely going to come back stronger. I know where I need to work on next year or next time. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to see how much of a dent we took out of her. I know it should have been better. A lot of people that should have been registered Democrat were kicked out of the party without their knowledge, re-registered as non-affiliated voters just because they ticked a box at the DMV, Social Security, or DHS. So a lot of people who thought they were registered Democrats were actually registered non-affiliated without their knowledge. And so I think that's where the biggest discrepancy is. And that's why I really want to make getting Oregon to have open primaries in the next election a big, big issue.
Yeah, I strongly relate to that. We, too, in New Jersey have non-open primaries. We have closed primaries. And that's a hugely infuriating factor because, personally, I identify as an independent, but I live in a two-party system. So it's like you kind of are forced into an identification moniker. So I totally can relate to that and how that can kind of skew the expectations when you're like, I got all these people who are going to vote for me. And then they're like, okay, time to vote. Oh, I can't. Oh, well, that's a shame. So I think a person's a person and they should all be able to participate. Ricky, just to finalize that thought, what were your expectations coming in and how did you feel when you heard the results as well?
Well, same thing with Amanda and Heidi. This is actually my second run for office. So I think I had my first trial and error in 2018, and I thought in 2020 I came more prepared. Unfortunately, none of us could have predicted COVID-19. That definitely took effect in all of our fundraisers and door-to-door knockings or, phone banking. So that took a huge part of our strategy individually and together. I really did think we'll take a big chunk. I really did think that Heidi or Amanda would be in the double digits. I really did think that we would drop her down to 60% and show that she's beatable. To be honest, and speaking frankly, I'm disappointed. It just shows you that besides her being part of the establishment Democrats, she is a good Democrat, but it shows honestly people in this district are happy with a moderate Democrat. And there's nothing we can do about it at the moment to change the conversation. And that's facts. So we need to really assess where we want to go moving forward individually and together, our ideology, and just see how can we talk to more people and say, hey, this is the issues we're running for. This is why we think it's better for Oregon District 1 and across the country. So I think wherever we go individually or together, we have 2 years to determine what we want to do. I really hope Amanda and Heidi run again. As for me, I'm a little exhausted, being my second time running. So I'm going to take a huge break and see what happens in 2022.
Well, Ricky, I wanted to stick with you there. I think as a person who's run twice, I wanted to ask you, what was the biggest difference apart from COVID, running up until around that March time when stuff was shutting down? What was the biggest difference you noticed in this race going against Bonamici?
I don't know, to be honest. I just think this time, like I mentioned, I was more prepared. I was doing more and more door knocking. I think that was my biggest strength. And people were eager to talk to me. I'm pretty sure Amanda and Heidi got the same thing. They're like, wow, someone's coming to my door and talking to me about the issues. They were really surprised. And the fact that they're like, who's Suzanne? So again, it surprises me that she won by a big margin. There's something wrong. And I don't want to go into speculation and conspiracies. But again, I think just the grassroots fundraising, door to door, that's just a big part of the whole conversation that people love. That this time I did more. This time I was more engaged, and this time I was more out there publicly. So that's the difference between this year and 2018. And the last thing that was definitely important and great this year is we have 2 great candidates to my right. Rather than 2018, it was me and some other individual who ran for a single issue only. But I'm glad I had Heidi and Amanda here in this race to really push the issues.
Yeah, I can totally feel that. It must have been a tough experience having all the, being able to get that human connection and actually say, hey, I'm not just another politician who wants to come in and be the same as Bonamici. I want to bring real change to you. Mm-hmm. Having that limited exposure can definitely hurt. I'm curious, Heidi, in your perspective, like, how do you think we can grapple going forward? Amanda had given the suggestion of open primaries. What do you think would be able to be done potentially in a 2-year span that can assist potentially in the future for yourself or other candidates in the future?
Yeah, I mean, definitely having open primaries is a huge thing, and making sure that voters have a bit more education too, so that they know, hey, I didn't get my ballot by X date. That's a problem. So then I need to reach out and see if I can get it in time, or I'm not registered correctly. A lot of people just didn't know, and when they went to vote, they found their ballot wasn't there, or they found that they were registered as unaffiliated, or they were registered at the opposite party. Even I've heard stories of that. I've had people that were always registered Democrats that we called on the phone and said, Mo, Heidi's not on my ballot. I don't understand. So I think that there's definitely open primaries would help. I also think that we need to figure out what the heck is going on with the Democratic Party and our voting system and what's happening there, because there are some issues. And of course, I'm in favor of, alternate voting systems rather than single choice. I would like to see us move to at least ranked choice voting, if not, looking at other forms such as approval or star voting, in order to make it more fair. When you have single choice, you have things like this happen where the incumbent has a massive margin because people don't necessarily know myself, Amanda, and Ricky as well. So even if they would be open to us, they didn't have enough time to get to know us or education to change their vote. So they felt, well, better to go with the safe bet. And that's just human psychology. But if you have an alternate voting system, such as ranked choice or other methods that are also effective, then people will actually have more of a say when they go to vote. And they might be like, oh, you know what? Like, I like Ricky the most. But if Ricky doesn't get it, then I like Amanda. And I like Heidi. And I don't like Bonamici. She's at the bottom. And these really, awesome things could start happening with democracy. So a ton of democracy reform is clearly needed. And we need to figure out what the heck is going on. with these ballots and why people were not able to vote, because that's frankly should be investigated to a high degree. What is going on there?
I mean, I know a lot of people that were registered and just didn't get a ballot. You know,
same. We talked to people. Yeah, we talked to so many people. I sent out, I don't even know, like 30,000 texts last week. And one big feedback that my text banker said was that so many people don't have their ballots. We had to add it to our script on how to teach people on how to get their ballot. And other people saying again that my name wasn't on their ballot, that they had it and I wasn't on there, even though they're supposedly a Democrat. Right. So just hearing that actual feedback makes me think, what is going on? And then also seeing the numbers, like 20% of Oregon still voted for Bernie Sanders, despite him not being in the campaign anymore. Yet those votes didn't go to down ballot progressives. So that's confusing as well. Like, what happened there? They just didn't vote. There's a lot of things that we need to look into as to what's going on.
Yeah, and I wanted to inquire, Amanda, you were the first one to kind of bring up this idea. Do you think you would want to consider like actually challenging anything? I know there's been some of these more just fact finding when you bring like lawsuits forward that it comes with that. Is there challenges that you expect to do, or do you think that's just something that you'll try and do more long-term investigation by like talking to the people in the party? What do you think can be done to start like bringing some of this transparency to the process?
I mean, I've been talking to a couple of people on Twitter today about possibly talking to lawyers, see what we can do, see what options are available to us. I think that it's not about winning a lawsuit. It's about finding information and finding out exactly what happened. And that should be the priority right now, is to find out, get those numbers, be able to go through them and see where the discrepancies are, see why people didn't get ballots, and see why they were re-registered as a non-affiliated voter when they had been Democrat for years.
And I wanted to just kind of stick on this note for just a moment. Ricky, I wanted to know, first of all, if you had that similar experience with the voters that you were talking to in terms of that discrepancy and not getting that registration. And then furthermore, what do you think in general can be done to help prevent these types of things in the future, to bring more representation to the process?
Good questions. I didn't receive those kind of feedback because I stopped doing a lot of phone banking the first week of May for different reasons, and so I kind of slowed down my campaign the first week of May. As far as trying to hold people accountable, I mean, I applaud Amanda for going out there and getting the signatures, but then when COVID-19 hit, we were both in a position where we couldn't get the signatures because we had to stay at home. Mm-hmm. So I spoke with Amanda and I'm like, what can we do? And then, we both wanted to reach out to the Secretary of State to either give us a postponement or do what New York did. New York cut their ballots by 1/3, I believe, to have people
to 1/3.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm like, that's helping candidates to get on a ballot, but Oregon did not do that. I reached out to the Secretary of State, and it's and then not to put Amanda in a good or bad way, but she's limited at what she can do, and I applaud her for doing what she's doing. But she literally had to go to Salem and do all this stuff that shouldn't have happened. So we have to make sure it's accessible for everyone who's running, having independent committees. And I just think there's a lot of flaws going on in the system. 2018, I order from Salem information from Democratic voters. Mm-hmm. Trying to get that access program in my computer, it's ridiculous. It's not accurate. Any information Heidi or Amanda were to purchase, it's old, outdated, and there's people out there making money. But you have the local DNC who wants to sell us a Vanguard program or Vanpro, whatever, for $5,000 when we're really starting up. So what I would want to do in the future, 2022, implement a policy or platform for any newcomers to give newcomers a minimum of $2,500 to start off their campaign.
Yeah.
Okay. And the DNC wants us so bad to vote blue at every election. If they're going to keep emailing me, the DNC, every day, say, hey, Ricky, can you chip in $7? I expect them to chip in $2,500 when I run in 2 years. It should be equal all across.
Yeah, it should definitely be a two-way street. They shouldn't just be protecting the incumbents. Obviously, they've done multiple things like the DCCC basically banning the use of consultants helping out people that are challenging incumbents. There's a lot of this protectionism of who's already in office.
Yeah.
And I certainly can see that in place. Heidi, I wanted to ask you on this like new subject line, like what would you be recommending to future people that run in this district? Obviously, don't have a pandemic happen at the same time. But like, what types of lessons can you take away from this process?
That's a tough question. This district is going to be tough to win. I'm not going to just do it. It'll be so easy. It's going to be very difficult. One thing is we don't have runoffs. That's another thing back on the old topic that we're having, but we should probably have, runoffs set up the way that other states do. So that would be a good start. But as far as running in this district, it's hard for me to say. Yeah, I literally started right before the pandemic and I only ran my campaign for like 2 weeks out in the public. And then everything else was digital. So if people want to know how to run a 100% digital campaign, let me know. But it's definitely really hard. But I think I did some pretty phenomenal things. With the time period that I had, and no name recognition, like none. And like Amanda and Ricky didn't even know I was running until like the middle of March or like beyond. So, basically what I would say is that there are a lot of things that we can do digitally to reach people now. I would do things maybe a little bit better and differently with more staff and have things more organized if I did it in the future. However, I would say that the things we did were highly effective. People responded to text banking. They really liked that. I wish I had better voter data. Going back to Ricky's point, it was hard to get accurate data and very expensive, and definitely got like somewhat ripped off a couple times throughout the process, but that's how it goes. But that worked really well. Phone banking was great too towards the end, or to reach older people that have landlines. We did reach out to a lot of senior citizens through landlines, and they really appreciated that. Facebook ads and Instagram ads worked quite well, as long as you're willing to avoid all the hateful comments on your Facebook ads, then it works pretty well. And basically just having systems in place and having people help you. So luckily I had help from people in the universal basic income movement who helped me out and working out a lot of these things. So I would say you need to have organization and structure. And it's definitely possible, though. It's weirdly harder than it looks and easier than it looks at the same time.
Yeah, I certainly think that's the case because, it's a daunting idea of just, I'm going to run for Congress. I think there's this fear factor that everyone says, and it's like, oh, you kind of can throw some stuff together. But then it's like all those little hurdles, the subtleties of the system, like as we just talked about before, like the voter ballots coming off the record of not being registered as Democrats or simply not getting your ballots. Those are the things you discover a little bit later on, although you can kind of expect there's a little general corruption that we all acknowledge in politics. Amanda, I wanted to ask, same question to you. What lessons did you take away that you would recommend to future candidates? I know I had seen on your own Twitter that you had posted that you want to run again. What are you looking to try and have as something that you'll do potentially next time?
Definitely a bigger, better staff. I did a lot of the work for this on my own, which was definitely a challenge in a wheelchair with a service dog. So I'm definitely going to get a big team behind me this next time. That's the first thing. But I think the biggest lesson I learned in this was definitely take it to the people. A lot of our campaign was 99% word of mouth. I made sure to get out there on public transportation. We turned bus rides and max rides into little town halls, and it was amazing. It was effective, and people really responded to that. And so I think that's definitely something that I'm going to stick with. Carry forward.
And Ricky, just to finalize on that topic, I know you said you want to take a little bit of a longer break and reconsider. What's something that you would recommend to the others to be able to tap into some of the voters that you were able to get in this run, as well as, just in general from your process of running twice? What would you recommend to them to consider doing in the future?
2 things I think that I've learned. Really do your homework about the demographics and the voter data that you have currently in the last 4 years of how people vote. And 2, unfortunately, sad to say, which I commented on your Twitter yesterday, John. The money.
Yeah.
You need at least $100,000 in a congressional race to be competitive, minimum. And if you have that, you have the capability to buy all the necessary, your posters, your cards, your phone banking, hiring staff. That will give you a good chance. But if you don't have that, it's sad to say we have great candidates in this green with me, but we're running for good reasons and good cause. But without the money, it's a very long shot. I don't want to discourage anyone from not running because it's a good experience. But then that's just the reality that we live in now.
Yeah, of course. I think if you're going to try and reach, I think, this election had around like 107,000 people vote in the primary. Most elections, we can assume when there's not a pandemic, will have a little bit higher of a voting rate. Think about the cost of trying to reach each of those voters. I think, Amanda, I had seen today, you had posted something like, what was it, like $1.80 per vote? Like, think about that. Now, if there's like 100,000 of them, probably more in a non-pandemic year, you're absolutely right, Ricky. You got to have at least 100,000. So it's a mind-boggling sense. What do you think, like Amanda, that we could be doing on a fundraising sense to be able to help in the future?
I mean, what we really need is publicly funded elections. That's the full stop. I mean, that's what we need is publicly funded elections. As far as fundraising in the future, it's hard because, I mean, I represent one of the poorest communities in the country, and being able to go to them and ask for money is hard. I know that the number one occupation for my donations was unemployed. So it's one of those big challenges because I refuse to take PAC money. I refuse to take corporations. I refuse to take that money from those rich donors. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to just follow up on that. Like, obviously we would love to have public financed elections. I think everyone here can agree to that. In the interim, we need people like one of the few of you here to get into power so that we can actually try and get those things.
Right.
What do you think we can be doing? As you said, like some of the people that we have as our main stakeholders in this kind of like progressive movement are the most vulnerable among us with the least amount of money, with the least amount to give. How do we expand that fundraising base so that we could just even win to start passing some of these laws?
I mean, I think we need the help and the support of the progressives that are at the top that have those name recognitions, that people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Bernie Sanders. They need to start helping us out and passing some of that love down ballot. I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I do think that the fundraising has to start from the top, as well as the legislation. I don't see these people ever putting forward these democracy reform bills. There's many other things that they do, but it's not really helping these incumbent candidates that we need to build a movement. And that's where I, at least on this program, try to prioritize. I want to switch gears just for a moment, get a little less serious, a little bit more fun. Obviously now you're no longer in primary gear. You're going to have some time off. Unfortunately, you can't go traveling or have all the fun in the world because we are still in the pandemic. Heidi, what's something you're expecting to be doing? And like, how long do you want to just take a break? Like, what's the time you think is needed?
I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I'm gonna have to force myself to take a break and not immediately like jump into another project. So that'll be the hardest thing. Just as something fun that I want to do. I'm a big Animal Crossing fan. And so I'm going to fix my island up, make it pretty cool. And then I'm going to release my dodo code and just have people come into my island and go ham and do what they can do. So that'll be fun. So that's one thing I wanted to do just as a fun thing on my Twitter. So be looking out for my dodo code. But other than that, I don't have any big, huge plans right now. I do know that, I just want to take time to spend with my wife because she's been like, hi, for the last 3 months, so she's stoked. She's really happy, to be honest, that I'm not running the campaign anymore. And of course she obviously wanted me to win, but she's also kind of like, that'd be pretty scary if you won. So this is kind of an ideal result for me. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. So, I'm just going to enjoy time with her. And we do want to go on some kind of camping trip or something outdoors if we can do it. If we can find a place that is open and we're far away from people, then we'll try to figure that out.
That does sound like a nice time off. And, frankly, video game streaming with these whole Animal Crossing phases may be the way we fundraise. We'll never know.
I'm open to it. I'm super open to it. Yeah.
Ricky, how about you? How do you want to spend your time off now? I have to clarify. Were you as well? I know Heidi had said she was working full time. Were you also working while you were campaigning too?
I stopped working as of March 13th through the pandemic. So, unfortunately, my situation is different. I mean, I'm going to take a break from politics as far as posting or engaging any kind of social media for at least one solid month.
Yeah.
The future may be different for me because, like I expressed and shared this with Heidi and Amanda, I'm having issues with my unemployment getting paid out for at least the last 8 weeks. So I might have to go back to Los Angeles. And this is unfortunate because I love Oregon. This is going to be my home for the rest of my life, but the pandemic hit and it really caused a huge downward spiral for me. So that's unfortunate because I would want to be here. But on the flip side, I'm thinking positive. If I were to run in 2 years in a different district, I can join one of these ladies in Congress and support each other. So that's the positive about running in a different district and supporting each other.
I appreciate the silver linings, but it is quite unfortunate to hear that unemployment situation, especially anything economic taking you away from the area you want to live in. I don't know if it's a family that you're going back to have that happen. I think it's a tragedy that this has been done through like the unemployment system, and all these states have just gotten overloaded. We needed to get money to people a lot quicker. Amanda, how do you think you'll be spending your time now that the campaign's wrapped up a little bit?
Well, my campaign's wrapped up, but I still have like 30 candidates across the country that are running on the disability rights platform, and I'm helping every single one of them out as much as I can. So this is still going, and it's going to keep going as long as we have candidates running on a disability rights platform. I'm going to keep helping. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. I wanted to ask you all, like, what you thought about the results in general. Obviously, you weren't the only race in Oregon. How'd you feel about the rest of the results during the evening? Most of them were a little lopsided, other than I think the 2nd district, which had a little bit of a close race. Heidi, how'd you feel about the race results beyond your district?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I feel like Oregonians did go very conservative and moderate, or whatever you want to call it, but I was expecting certain people to perform a lot better than they did, which is just surprising. I mean, Albert Lee, for example, in District 3, I really thought that he was going to be a lot closer to Earl, just based on what I had seen and the endorsements he was getting, the money he raised. I mean, just all the data points pointed to him doing a lot better. So that was very strange. The 2nd district obviously has that competition. I mean, it's probably going to go red, so I wasn't really too concerned about the 2nd district, even though, I mean, I love all the people of Oregon, but like, I just know that that's probably how it's going to go down. So it was interesting, though, to see that go down. And then I was surprised Bernie didn't get more votes, to be honest, because I was just surprised about that. I guess just a lot of people decided to vote for Biden, which I don't see why, because like he's already got it. And if you're a Bernie supporter, I don't know. It was a little shocking to me. I feel like some actual Bernie supporters seem to have voted for Biden, and it just didn't really make sense to me. So there were just a few confusing things where I thought Oregon was going to go a little bit more progressive this cycle. And it might be due to the pandemic. Traditionally, when there's a national emergency or something, really bad going on with the economy, that people tend to vote for incumbents more because it feels safer, and just human psychology is like, just choose the safe choice. So maybe a little bit of that happened.
Yeah, I think that's certainly understandable. And I have to say, I do wonder what would have happened if some of these candidates had stuck out the race a little bit longer at the top of the ticket. Like, some of it also is you're not as willing to go out for a person who is just not going to get it. So there might be that little bit of an enthusiasm gap as well. And I, too, was kind of surprised by Albert's results specifically. And I was a little disappointed. I know they're not Democrats, but, we had like a pro-women's choice, pro-LGBT Republican who was running in the 2nd district, and it looked like he lost as well. So that's a little bit unfortunate as well. Amanda, would you echo those sentiments? How was your reaction to the overall race in Oregon?
I mean, definitely disappointed. I think would be a good word. Disappointed. Albert, I definitely thought was going to do better. Same with Mark.
Yeah, Mark as well.
Mark was going to do better in the fifth.
Yeah.
Candace in the Portland City Council, I thought was going to take that one. There are a lot of people, and I was really disappointed to see that a lot of people didn't perform as well as I thought they would have. So.
Okay. And do you think there was any particular reasons why it didn't turn out as well, in your opinion?
I mean, I know Bernie definitely told people to vote for Joe Biden, so I'm assuming that didn't help much.
Yeah.
Probably put a little bit of a damper on it.
It puts a damper on the down ballot too, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be it too. I mean, when you have, like, if we would have had Bernie versus Biden, like a legitimate Bernie versus Biden, I think the down ballot would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
But since we didn't, it really decreases enthusiasm.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can echo that sentiment. But Ricky, I wanted to see, do you have the same sentiment where any of the candidates that you were supporting do a little bit better, or that you were keeping attention to? And again, a similar question: what do you think caused these types of more statewide results?
I think besides our race that I was looking at, I wanted to at least show that we dragged Wanamachi's numbers down. That would have been a win for me personally. But the other second race I was interested is the mayor's race of Portland, Teresa Rayford, because she was a really progressive, born and raised in Portland, and she had a great activist. She met up with Michelle Obama. She has a nonprofit.
Yeah.
She was really in for the people. When we talk about when we were given that gotcha question with Willamette Week, well, where you're born, or well, how do you know your district? Well, Ted Wheeler, I don't think he's from here. Teresa Rayford is from here. She was born and raised. She's third generation Portland.
She's also indigenous, isn't she? So she's even further than that, I thought.
Probably, but
yeah, she actually has indigenous blood. So she was saying,
yeah. So
she was saying it goes back even further. I think in one thing she was saying, I was like, oh my god, well, you can't get more Portland than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of disappointing because I really wanted to see her win because she's a true activist. And as far as the other question, John, I think things really realistically as I can, studying politics for a while. I think if we were to be running against red incumbent, I guarantee you we would have got more attention. Either one of us would have got an endorsement, a high profile endorsement, and more money in the bank. But we didn't. So when we're running worse in the blue establishment, it's hard. We don't get attention and we don't get support. Two things that's really quick I want to touch on. Me and Amanda, when I was talking to her early in a race, I wanted to push her race out because of COVID-19, because it will give more people a chance to research their candidates. It gives candidates more time to kind of establish and run a successful campaign. But everyone thought we're in a safe blue state that we vote by mail. True, but it's not always 100% effective during a COVID-19 pandemic. Right. And then, lastly that I wanted to mention is, we just it's just really I'm beyond words if you can tell, because you had great candidates. And the fact is, what I've learned from history, from our history books, from our politics, is people love progressive change, small increments. So they love progressive with the bluest district and state probably in the whole nation, but they love progressive work this inch at a time. And they love their Democrats who are moderate, and that's totally fine. But until we change that, or at least come up with something better, it's going to be hard to remove one of them from their seats, knowing they're not going to retire, because they vocally said they're not going to retire.
Right.
Yeah, and I totally understand that point you're trying to get at. Is like a lot of people don't want to have the boat shaken on them a lot. Like they think if you move very fast, it's going to be volatile, and that's going to be chaotic, and they might get thrown far lower than they are existingly. But I think we do need to somehow grapple with that question of saying, hey, we actually do need to go faster, because our current speed is just not catching up with the problem, or it's further making it worse. So I totally agree with you, Ricky. The last question I wanted to ask to you before, I hopefully get to some of our chat questions that I've had is, What do you think could be your relationship with Suzanne now that she is the person that's going into the fall? And what are some things that you're hoping that she might take as lessons that the voters want in terms of policies? Heidi, I'll start with you there.
Yeah. Well, I feel at least partially responsible for her, being a co-sponsor of Ro Khanna's legislation, the $2,000 per month, $500 per child. I did mention that in the endorsement interview, and I think afterwards she signed on as a co-sponsor, if I remember correctly, and people were tagging me in it, and I was like, well, I mean, I at least pressured her a little bit and made her publicly, have to answer that question. So I feel good about that. If I can move her even further to be for a permanent universal basic income, then awesome. And I'll continue to put pressure on her for that because I think it's that important. So she's definitely not going to hear the last from me and about universal basic income. So she can look forward to that. Otherwise, she did not seem very open to working with us, like on an actual professional level. I didn't feel a ton of real respect from her. So when we were on that, so I'm a little bit not sure if she's going to actually reach out and actually talk to us. I mean, it would have been nice if she would have called us or like sent an email after the race. That would have been a really nice gesture. Like, hey, you guys, you ran a great race. Like, thank you so much. Like, that's a nice thing to do when you're all Democrats, but we didn't really, we didn't get that. So we'll see. We'll just have to see where it goes. But I mean, I'm open to working with anybody as long as they, treat me with respect and are willing to listen and be empathetic to our concerns because we're the real people living and working in this district. And she should be listening to us as her constituents anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And, Amanda, I saw you nodding in agreement that she was just not professional in that sense. How do you think you can hopefully have some working relationship? As Heidi just said, she is supposed to represent you. Would you want to try and push her? Obviously, disability platform has a big thing, but what do you think she might be the most willing to move on that you've been championing?
I mean, it's really hard because every time I've tried to talk with her and interact with her and champion something, she just hasn't wanted to hear it. If she called me up today and she was like, hey, Amanda, I would really like you to come on and help advise for disability rights, I would be all over that just because the people matter more than any personal grief or anything like that. And we have 1 in 4 Oregonians that are disabled and they deserve representation. So if she wanted to, I'd be more than happy to. The problem is, I don't think I would ever get that call. And that's the problem, is that no matter how many times we reach out, no matter how many times we try to talk to her, she's not reciprocating. She's not responding. She doesn't want to hear from us.
Yeah. And, I your eyes, at least personally, that it makes it a lot easier to just ignore someone in general if you just, give them no oxygen, not even on a private level. Like once you have that private connection, then you start responding more often just in public because it's like, well, I know this person now. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of bury them if they just ignore you altogether. I'm curious, Ricky, same question to you. What's something that you would hope that Suzanne would consider strongly in the future that she might be willing to consider?
I think Heidi and Amanda already answered pretty much what's on my mind. I think, given a second attempt to run, she would have reached out and say, hey, congrats for at least, giving it your best. During our last Willamette week in 2018, I did ask her a question like, hey, any advice you have for me for running in the future races? And she was really humble and she said, yeah, reach out to voters and just have a conversation. So I do appreciate that honest feedback. But I agree with my friends here to the right where we didn't get a phone call, an email, come to my office for a quick chat. Would she do that? That's who knows if she would do that. And just briefly, I don't like people who are into photo ops. And I think I personally think she's a photo opportunist where she has any chance to take a photo. She makes it seem like I'm doing something for this individual or group. No, you're not. And I don't like the fact that you're intentionally targeting the immigrants to show the Latino that you care for them. Because if you did care for them, you would stop ICE here last year. So I don't appreciate that. So
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for answering my questions. I would love to now open it up to the chat to give some of theirs. The first question, and I got this question a lot, so I'm just picking one of them. This came from Casa de Leones. He asked you, would it make sense in 2022 to be able to join forces? Obviously, Ricky, you've said you didn't want to run, but to join forces against the incumbent on one ticket. I'll open this up to the crowd. I'll start with Heidi. Do you think that the three of you running at the same time helped that, coming down, or do you think it would have been better to have it be a one-on-one race?
I mean, if I'm being honest, in this race, I don't think it would have mattered if you just add up what we got. That's only like 15% or something. And she still would. I think that it probably would have been a similar result. I don't think there was actual vote splitting in this particular instance. But moving forward, it may be more beneficial to have a united front in some way. I don't really have the bandwidth to think about what that would look like right now. But when I do, I'm definitely open to discussing what that would look like and helping in any way. And, I definitely think we need to unseat these corporate incumbents who do nothing. So any way that I can help with that, I'm definitely down to help. Whether that's, being a candidate again, whether that's backing whoever runs in 2022, whatever happens. I'm into it. It's just a little too early for me to mentally grasp what that would look like for myself.
I think that's very understandable being the first day after. There's definitely a lot of time before 2022, even though I'm recommending to people start now because, frankly, the incumbency advantage is just that huge. And you need that time to start, A, just getting to know people, B, fundraising, C, building up that team. It just takes so long if you're, just the first time running, or frankly, just working class or poor. Like you don't have all these resources coming in. Amanda, same question to you. How did you feel that the dynamic? Obviously, you're good friends with these people here, but what do you think in terms of the strategy of beating her? Do you think it made a difference of having three people in versus one?
Honestly, like Heidi, I don't think it would have made a difference this year if it was one of us or if it's three of us. It was just an uphill race. It was basically an insurmountable obstacle. I mean, I was really running this year to push a message and see how I could drum up support, see what it was for a serious run in 2022. That was kind of always my plan. So I know where I'm going from here. I'm really excited to work with Heidi and to work with Ricky and to see what we can do for the future. I'm really excited to see what the future holds. I was really proud that we were all presenting a united front and working together this year. I think that says a lot about us and about our platform and a lot about our message. So yeah, I'm just really excited for the next election and see what comes.
Okay. And Ricky, do you echo those same sentiments that it wouldn't have mattered and that you have to just kind of see how the, political sphere kind of shapes into 2022 before saying whether it's going to be better one way or the other?
I think if Heidi or Amanda would have gotten double digits, I would have said it would have been better to support someone. But the fact it was pretty much them two, they got close, even amount, and I came last. But in a positive aspect, we give voters three different options besides from Bonavici. So the fact that we have over 12,000 people considering one of us, that's a win. So we got to just take that for what it is. And for them to go into our website and research us, I'm pretty sure we all saw a huge surge in our website visit. So, I thank everyone for visiting and at least giving us a chance to implement our policies and our platform. So thank you for everyone who voted for any one of us and giving us a chance. Sorry for the future. Again, me being my second time, I'm really going to think long and hard. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I don't tell my great friends here to the right, but mentally, physically, you're just pretty much when you try and go in public office, even something small, you have to do things the right way. So you change a lot of behaviors, which that can be kind of tiresome. So I need a really long mental break. I want to keep doing this. If I decide to do this, it'll probably be in Los Angeles. So I will be supporting Heidi or Amanda from Los Angeles, and then we can get in Congress together in 2022. That'll be amazing.
Nice.
And lastly, I love the fact that a lot of people across the country were really rooting for us as a unit. So that just shows you where the country is going at, where they want to see young individuals working together for the greater cause.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think it kind of like goes into the next point of, you kind of gave the hypothetical of you would maybe be running potentially, in California. This next question came from, no, sorry, this clicked the wrong one here. But you know what? Fine, we'll answer Nelson's instead. It's the same question, Nelson. Sorry, you got yours answered. Okay, this was the one I meant to click on. Hard to ask you in a hypothetical. Let's say all three of you were to win. What would be a game plan for how you all would want to try and tackle Congress together? Obviously, both of Heidi and Amanda are likely still going to be an Oregon one. We don't know for certain, but how would you want to start tackling this? I'll start with Amanda on this one.
I mean, as far as policy, what we'd want to tackle first, or
yeah, I guess it would be policy as well as just like strategically, like how do you start organizing this group that frankly has not had a lot of centralized direction?
All right, so I think really what we have here is an amazing thing. We have three people who are very passionate on three different, very specific topics. We have immigration, healthcare, and UBI that we can all hit the ground and run on our own topic, push the legislation that we need, work together in the areas that we can, and that we'd be able to support and get behind one another. That we'd work as a cohesive team for the change that we need, so that all three areas were addressed simultaneously.
And Heidi, would you echo that sentiment, or do you think there's something else that needs to happen first before you can get to those three issues?
Well, I mean, you obviously need to be pushing the issues that are important to you at all times. But I mean, we should be working on multiple things at the same time. I think that we could all get behind some serious democracy reform. So I think that that's a really good way that we can bridge the gap to get these policies done. It's going to be very hard to get, Medicare for all, universal basic income, real immigration reform if we don't have democracy reform. So I think that that's something we should always be working on. We should always be trying to get public vouchers for elections, basically redoing the way that we actually vote, making sure there's not crazy gerrymandering going on. Whatever we can do to make sure that the democratic process is actually working will help for more people like us to get in and actually do some work for the people. So I think that will always be something that I'm working on in addition to UBI or other things that I believe in. I think that we have to fix our democracy. It's clearly not working.
Yes. And, hopefully it's a little bit better if all three of you somehow, got in at the same time. We would hope so. But, I agree with you. That is definitely something we need to prioritize in general to unlock a lot of these ideas. Ricky, is there anything else that you would want to add on to how in this hypothetical scenario you're all in there, how you would want to go about like leading change?
Hypothetically, they're not wanting to be in LA, so that's one. that's one out of three, or at least 2 out of 3 will go to Congress. So we have to really think about if we together talk about in the future, if we want to run for Congress, where we want to be representing the different districts in the same state or whatnot. As far as going and if given a chance to serve the people at Congress, of course, I want to push some of my issues, with Amanda and Heidi and work with other individuals. Same thing what me and you and John talked about is reaching across the aisle. So we need to make sure we built a relationship going into Congress with some of the old veterans, but also with the new progressive. We don't want to start fights because that's going to divide the country and divide the Democratic Party. We've seen plenty of articles where progressives in the House are kind of at a war with the moderate left and vice versa. So I don't want to go in there doing that. I want to go in talking to both sides, the moderate left and progressive, and say, what can we do? Because we're in here for a reason. We don't want to see a split. Our party is currently trying to heal itself, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take all of us to put ourselves together to really heal it and move forward. There are some bad Democrats. There are some good Democrats. Overall, we want the party to go back to where we have all good Democrats.
Yeah, and I'm curious if Amanda and Heidi, do you agree with that sentiment that we have to start trying to work with some of these, veterans, or should we be more antagonistic? And furthermore, as you're questioning a little bit of like how the Democratic Party has been operating, do you think the future for change comes through the Democratic Party, or do you think it goes elsewhere? I'll start with Amanda on that one.
I don't know if antagonistic is the right word. But I think we definitely need to stick to our principles and take the issues to the people and get the support of the people, rally the people and explain to them why our policies work and what we need to do. We find more that unites us than divides us. So what really divides us is the how we get things done. I mean, we all want everybody to have health insurance. We just disagree on the how. And that's where we need to work on coming across and coming together, is on the how. A majority of people already agree on the end results. So
okay. And Heidi, would you agree with that sentiment that we should be, slightly challenging, but not mean, obviously not antagonistic, maybe not pugnacious, but we have to just start getting down to the nitty-gritty? Like, what do you think is that relationship we have with the party? And do you think it has to come through the party?
I mean, for now it does, because that's a system that we live in. So as much as I would love to have a nice multi-party system or have different parties going at it and have like an actual like, oh, here's the Socialist Party, or here's the like left libertarians, and here's this, that would be awesome. That would be so dynamic. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So we have two parties, and within those two parties, we have all these different sects. And that's kind of the issues that we're seeing. Like, all right, you have like these people over here that want this, and they want this over here. And of course, you have to be principled. And of course, like, it's kind of both. Like, it's kind of, in certain instances, you have to be firm and be like, no, I'm not moving on this. This is like what I'm not moving on. And that's fine. And everybody's going to have their different things. And then on other issues, you got to be able to work across the aisle and be like, hey, like, this is a common thing that we both want. What exactly do we need to do to get this to happen? And so I think that both things need to be happening at the same time. And we're always going to have our issues that we're firm on and that we won't budge on. But when we do have issues where there is some budge room, we should be open to budging so that we can work together and get things done. Because in the end, it's about getting the things done for the people. So you can't take your ideology, in my opinion, so far that you're willing to not get anything done. Right. And that's sometimes when incremental change happens. And as much as we know we need radical change, sometimes we're going to have to take a little bit of incremental to get to our end goal. And so it's both. You have to have your principles and you have to fight for them. But then also, if something's pretty good and better than what we have, then sometimes you have to give a little to help the people. It's all just comes down to, is this helping the people, or is this creating more corruption and making the system more entrenched than it already is? So if you can come down to that and be like, this is helping the people, it's not as far as we want it to go, but we're going to get it done, and we're going to do it by working with everybody. So I think that we need to do both. We need to work with the establishment where we have to, and then fight it where we can, and then make it so that we use it against itself. Essentially, we have to use the rules that are set up and figure out a way to game those rules. Just like you do in law, in actual gaming, and anything else, you figure out the rules and you figure out the loopholes and you get in there and you make the change so that rule is now fixed.
Well said.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The last question I wanted to ask all of you is, now turning outside of this race that you've all run, there's going to be races in the fall. And I wanted to focus on one in specific, the presidency. We're likely going to have Joe Biden as the nominee. And, it's not official yet. We still have a convention. But what do you tell to people right now in terms of Biden? I know from talking with all of you, Biden was not your first choices. But what would you tell people that are coming into this race? Ricky, I'll start with you on this one.
So I think this was the only question that would divide all three of us. But at least we respect each other to the point where we're still friends. Going into this 2020 presidential race before Biden, I was leaning towards Senator Harris. I believe she had a great experience. I think she came from our popular state, California. I believe she had qualifications, and then we need a woman, obviously. to lead our country once and for all. After Biden came in, knowing his history and did my homework, no one's perfect. I'm gonna put that out there first. No one's perfect, and I'm sorry, Amanda, including Bernie.
Nobody's perfect. I will give you that. I will give you
You would
that.
have won if he was perfect.
I will give you that.
So, but I chose Biden because he is right. We need to win the country so and hard again. We need to really unite that division once and for all. Whether he will serve for full 4 years because of his age and other medical issues, we need that more than another 4 years of Trump. Biden's trying to really reach across, in my opinion, to try to bring some progressives. But again, we talked about the progressive movement and about how much do we want at a time. So we're in 2016 where Bernie came out strong and he talked about all these important issues. People were like, oh, that's great. That's great. We did that at the local and state level, and that's amazing. But when it comes to the federal level, it's totally different, where people were like, well, we're not ready for that. Let's slow down a little bit. Where healthcare is a big thing, where we talked about, me, you, and John, where people like Medicare for all, but they're scared of taking away their union healthcare that they work so hard for. People like their healthcare, so it just depends on what issue you want to pick at. But I think I'm supporting Joe Biden. If I can work for his campaign and make some calls, I will. I think he's a great candidate that would really has a chance of beating Donald Trump, implementing good laws, progressive laws, and passing the baton in 4 years. I don't see him running a second term. I think he wants to run and win in this 2020, bridge whatever gap we can, and then pass the baton to the first female president in 2024.
Okay. I will echo your sentiments that I personally believe Biden is better than Trump. I think that's a softball for me to hit here. But beyond that, I will also just agree with you in the point that I think Biden is very likely to be a one-term president on his own volition if he was to win as well.
Yeah.
With that said, Amanda, he acknowledged that you two might have a difference of opinion here. What do you think in terms of what we should do with Joe Biden this upcoming election?
All right. So first off, this has nothing to do with Bernie and everything to do with Biden. I mean, everything that we have complained about with Donald Trump, Biden has done too. Trump dodged the draft. So did Biden. Trump, he deports immigrants. So did Joe Biden and Obama. Donald Trump grabbed pussies. So did Joe Biden. I don't understand. Like, seriously. Like, how more hypocritical can we be? I don't get it. Like, why can't you switch one pussy grabber for another one? Jesus Christ.
I can't go on.
Hey, John. Hey, John. Let me jump in really quick. Amanda, I'm gonna jump in really quick, and then I'll give you back your few minutes. So I totally understand. We don't want to be hypocrites of who we voted for and who do we want to vote in 2016. Totally understand. If Joe Biden's a drafter, so be it. If he wasn't president, President Obama was deporting immigrants, and so be it. But I didn't vote for Obama. Wasn't my first pick, and so that's that. So we can change the past. And then as far as the quote unquote grabbing, so we need to make sure that we've given Tara Reid her opportunity to speak up. And even Joe Biden said, let her speak up. I'd rather have someone acknowledge that, like, hey, let her speak up. Let her give her story, rather than Trump, who's saying, oh, no, never happened. Oh, no, they're lying. Oh, no.
Are you kidding? He said, like, after months of ignoring her, after blackballing her from Congress. Sorry.
But
that could be a whole long debate. Maybe we bring you back for that.
but again, and I like Amanda's. She gives great points. And again, it's hard because again, we don't want to be hypocrites of who we vote. But the same thing is too. We have to remember one key thing: the votes. Who has gotten the most votes so far? So people didn't like this about Joe Biden. He wouldn't have been the presumption nominee. So we keep forgetting that like, oh, well, he's not a great candidate. And maybe Amanda, he's not the best candidate or the perfect one. We have to remember this. it's the plurality wins all. He has the most votes. He's getting the most votes. So that's all I'm gonna say.
That infested our election is infesting that election. So that's like saying Suzanne got the most votes, so then we got to get behind her. It's the same.
Well, that begs the question: Are you all going to be voting for Suzanne? I mean, it does actually ask that question, but I want to bring Heidi in. You've been here on the sidelines on this. I want to ask you both those questions. What do you think about the situation that we have currently with Joe Biden? And then do you want to support Suzanne in the fall? Obviously, it's a very safe blue district, but how do you feel about it?
I guess I feel kind of the same way about the Suzanne situation as I do Joe Biden. I mean, I'm also in a safe blue state. I mean, so I can do what I want with my presidential vote. Like, that's the way I look at it. I'm very pragmatic. So if I was in a swing state, I look at things differently. I've always voted that way. I vote just strategy and pragmatic. So frankly, I'll vote whoever I want in November. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm a little bit on the fence. I don't like Joe Biden. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. I do think he's better than Trump. When it comes down to it, if I was looking at both and I actually really had to pick one, obviously I would pick Joe Biden. I mean, if that, but the thing is like, I don't have to do that. I can do whatever I want because it's my vote. And so I could do a protest vote, I could vote whatever. I could vote for Vermin Supreme. I could write in Andrew Yang. I could do whatever the heck I want with my vote because I'm in a safe area with it. So what I think is yeah, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden for things that he's done in his actual political career. Like, just looking at his record, I'm not a fan of it. I'm definitely not a fan of Trump. The advantage that Trump has is a short political career. Which is why I think Trump has a huge advantage because he doesn't have a voting record. Biden does, and Trump is going to go hard at Biden's voting record and Biden's actions in any single way he can. And there's so much he can go dive into. And that's problematic to me. So I wish that the Democratic Party would have picked somebody who's more of an outsider or at least had a better voting record.
You mean the voters?
Yeah, it's true. It is partially the voters picked a better person, but part of it
the voters, but they're in the Democratic
There's a lot
Party.
of other factors too.
I mean, most Democratic voters support the DNC, and that's the fact of it. As progressives, we might want to think that's not the case.
But this election, we had 20 candidates. So I think for this, at least presidential election, we can say that there was only two people, Hillary or Bernie. We have 20 great individuals.
No, because you had, so they stacked it. The DNC stacked it with moderates who then conveniently dropped out and gave all their support to Biden at the very end. So they were way ahead of you on that one.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But you're absolutely right. People stack behind Biden, but what counts the most? Votes. Not endorsements, votes.
Okay, but he didn't win Iowa. I mean, freaking Pete Buttigieg did. So he didn't win the first key states. So he had the votes by the time everybody dropped out and said, "I'll vote for him." Yeah, of course. I'm
gonna add this one thing. This is why I have issues with Bernie. When he was leading in Iowa, New Hampshire, he said in a town hall or I guess in a Q&A. The person with the most votes and popular votes at the moment, if given a tie, should be the nominee. Everyone should drop out. That wasn't his position in 2016. He challenged Hillary to the convention. He even wanted to push superdelegates to his way and trying to convince him otherwise. You can't have it both ways, Bernie.
Nobody's perfect, like you said. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But remember,
I gotta bring this back into control here. We're going off the rails a little bit, but because we got Ricky here on an island right now. I gotta give him some respect for taking the side. I just wanted to clarify. Amanda, you've acknowledged that you're not going to be voting for Joe Biden. What do you think you're going to be doing instead?
I'm going to be voting for the Green Party. I think that if we want a third party, that we need to encourage people to vote for the Green Party so that they can get the federal funding, so that they can get on the debate stage, so that we can really, truly have a third party out there and give people a serious third choice.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a good argument. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a good argument. I'm definitely for that kind of logic, Amanda, better than telling people not to vote at all, which I've heard some people on the left say, and I say, no, Green Party then. Don't just not vote at all, you know?
Yeah, I want to echo that sentiment. I did a whole video on this. I call it, vote no matter who. I hate vote blue no matter who, but vote no matter who.
Vote for somebody, please.
Down ballot, and we need to hit these thresholds if you're going to do that. And, in my personal opinion, I kind of echo, Heidi's sentiment. I'm a district by district person. If I'm in a swing area, I'm going to tell you, go vote for Joe Biden. It's the better option right now.
Yep.
I live in safe blue, New Jersey. Frankly, my district's even more blue than your district was. So I have all the freedom in the world. So I want to thank you all, though, for being here today. I want to give you just one final chance. If there's anything you want to just tell to the folks out there, or, even ask a question to your fellow candidates that you had here, friends now. Heidi, is there anything that you wanted to conclude with?
I just want to say thanks for anybody who supported me throughout this whole process. It's been a lot of fun, and I was happy to, run and be another voice for the future of the Democratic Party and the progressive left. I think that we're moving in really cool directions. I think that you can see that from Amanda and Ricky and the way that we've worked together. I feel just optimistic about the overall future, even though the results were not what we wanted them to be. Frankly, that doesn't matter. I mean, we have to keep moving forward because nobody wins their first time of doing anything, right? I mean, nobody comes out and knocks it out of the park on the first go at something. And so we are just going to keep moving and we're going to keep going. So thank you for everybody who supported me or Amanda and Ricky, and let's keep working because we're all in it for the same reasons.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Heidi. Ricky, is there anything that you wanted to say to the folks out there?
No, I mean, nothing that out of the ordinary. Just, I know we all did our videos last night about thanking our followers and voters and anyone who contributed to our campaign. So I did mine yesterday. We were a little disappointed and a little intoxicated, but I wanted to yesterday thank everyone for just for letting me speak to them and share my message. I know we all share different message, but it's almost the same message that we want to move to a better place for all people in our district in America. So thank you for everyone, and thank you, John, for having us here twice to speak on our platform.
Yeah, you're very welcome to you all on that point. And Amanda, is there anything that you wanted to let the folks out there know that you've been thinking about?
I really want to thank Heidi and Ricky. What we did was something amazing. I don't really know any other candidates that have banded together the way that we have. I mean, we've shown that this is a different type of political action, that the message is what's important, that this is about change more than personal benefit, more than profits, more than anything else, that we're all in this for the right reason. And I really want to thank them for everything that they've done and carrying on their message and the fight that they did. And so thank you guys so much.
Oh, well,
thank you, Amanda.
And I have to say, Amanda, I truly think you are right how special that is. Frankly, I think you're all lovely people, but I would not have been hosting this whole video today if it wasn't for such a great relationship that you all share with one another and banding together. So I want to thank you all for having such camaraderie in a environment that frankly does not encourage it. We don't have ranked choice, have that friendliness right now, and so you championed it anyway. So thank you all for being such good sports in politics in general. That being said, the final things I want to tell the Rosebeds out there that had been watching is, we got more Congress races in the future, and we're going to continue interviewing people. So we have Liam O'Mara on tomorrow, California's 42nd district. So we'll be talking with him. And then we're going to be having Maxwell Barrow on, Maryland's 6th district on Friday. And then we're going to be having, we're actually going to do a little bit different. We also want to not just put all our eggs in the federal basket. We're going to start talking to some more state candidates too. So one of the people, by actually Amanda's recommendation, Skylar Johnson, we'll be interviewing him. We have him scheduled for, I think, June 2nd. And we're going to also be talking with Lauren Ashcraft next Friday. So we have more people to come, but I'm just so thankful that it doesn't end here. We're going to keep moving. Like, one stumble is not the end all be all. It's how we get back up, and there's more race to be had. So, thank you all for tuning in today. thank you all for participating and talking with me. I've really grown to enjoy being able to know each and every one of you that's been here today, Amanda, Ricky, and Heidi. And, I hope everyone's staying safe out there. As we said today, this coronavirus is a scary thing that we all had to completely alter our political system to accommodate. So I hope you're all doing okay out there. And, as always, I hope you're staying rosy.